Hey y'all, it's Courtney. I'm back with just a real quick video. I was not planning on making a video today, but I just saw something real interesting and I just wanted to talk about it real quick because it reminded me of something that has always really interested me and got my brain going. So I don't know if you guys have watched this whole situation. First disclaimer, I want to say I'm not being an armchair psychologist. I'm not trying to diagnose anybody with anything. I'm not saying that this is what's going on with this situation. I'm not diagnosing anything. I just want to get this out there. It just reminds me of another situation I've seen. And then second off, I want to say my second disclaimer is this is nothing against this person, because I'm going to kind of be talking about Anderson Henderson today. But I've always had like a weird like towards him. I mostly think it's because he lives in the same state as me, and I don't know, just West Virginians, like, we have this sort of like familial bond. It's really strange. I know some people would be like, that's stupid, but like with Mama Beth, that's why I tried with her. I knew who she was for a very long time, but I tried anyways because she's a fellow West Virginian, and to me, if you're from West Virginia, you can't be that bad, because most people here are just, go on, Poppy. Most people from here are, they were taught right, for the most part. There's bad people everywhere, of course. But, as I said, every time Anderson comes in my comment section, it's, my West Virginia sister, and Poppy, stop. Poppy's a boy, by the way. Poppy grew balls, by the way. So, so I just want to say that. I'm not saying anything against Anderson. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying he's fucking psychotic. But what I have been seeing from him is a little concerning here lately, and it really reminds me of another situation. And this situation, let me look this up really quick. It's called Folie à deux. And in French, that means madness of two. Okay? So I'm going to type that in because I forget the twins' name that went through this, and I've heard this story a few times, and it always just really captivates me every time I hear it. Like I said, it's called Folie à deux, madness of two, which is also known as induced psychosis. And it's a transference of delusions or ideas or abnormal behaviors. And I'm not saying that this is what's going on in that situation, but what I will say, the reason why it reminds me of this other situation that I'm talking about is because, like, I noticed that when he's by himself, he's a little bit more, like, normal, and he makes silly, wacky, crazy kind of videos and that kind of stuff, but it seems like as soon as him and Liz get together, the cops are being called all the time. He would just a bunch of, ouch. God, he's a brat. There was a bunch of nonsense going on earlier. I don't know, he was screaming at the cops like, I'm Anderson Henderson, bitches, I'm famous, you guys know me better than your own children, and just like a bunch of really crazy stuff. And I can't see that being fake. I can't. And, I hope this is not like an Onision situation, or what Onision tried to explain that situation with Shiloh as was all fake and, just to get attention, her faking seizures and all this other kind of crazy stuff to get attention. Because when I first saw him and Liz together, that's what vibes it gave me, was Onision and Shiloh, circa 2008, 7, 9, maybe, I don't know, something like that. But that's what it really reminded me of, and I was like, is this a troll? But the more I've seen, like, the cops are getting called all the time on them, and I can't see that being fake. And he's always out in public screaming at people, and, when he's by himself, he seems a little bit more normal. But then when they get together, it's like their madness bounces off each other. So this case that I'm talking about is called I typed it in once. Maybe I typed in madness of two. And I want to tell you guys about it a little bit and just kind of tell you why it reminds me of this situation. Okay, so the Eriksonsis twins, Erikson twins, and basically what happened with these two was they were separated for like 20 years. They were both pretty normal people. They met up in London. One was from Ireland, the other one was from somewhere in the UK. They met up together in London and they just went mad. Like, immediately, it took within hours for them to start going nuts, running out in the middle of traffic. The cops got a hold of them. The woman wriggles out of her jacket to run back into traffic. Then the other sister runs off into traffic, both of them getting hit by cars. One of them broke both of her legs, so she was put into the hospital. The other one was hit really hard by a car and knocked completely out. Well, they thought she might be dead because she was fucking out cold. Well, she gets up and, like, jumps up all of a sudden and starts physically beating this woman cop. So they both go to the hospital. The one gets out because the hospital's like, there's nothing wrong with these people. And there's a lot more to the case, like a lot more fuckery happened before all this, leading up to this. So if you guys want to watch that case, I'll leave a link for it down in the description. I just watched a video the other day. Mr. Ballin, he had it on one of his videos. I'll find it and I'll link it. But, you know, so they let the other twin go, the one with the broken legs, stayed in the hospital, and because they were separated, you know, she was doing okay. They were fine when they were, you know, being treated in different rooms away from each other. But the one that actually suffered from the psychosis was released, and she was walking around the street, found this man, said she was looking for a bed and breakfast. He's like, I actually have one. Takes her back to his house, because she didn't believe him at first, but he's like, no, I really do. Showed it to her, you know, with his business card. So she comes back to the house with him, gives the guy a cigarette, and then rips it out of his hand and tears it up and says, this might be poisoned, and just acting real strange. Well, so she stays there. Then the next morning, he realizes he's out of tea. He walks over to the neighbor, says, hey, can I borrow some tea bags? Neighbor's like, sure. Neighbor's standing outside, and the dude comes back outside holding his stomach and says, she stabbed me. She takes off running down the highway again, and she has a hammer, and she's hitting herself in the forehead with this hammer repeatedly. So it's just like, when these people get together, it's a transference of psychosis, or transversion of delusional ideas or abnormal behaviors. It's really crazy. This often happens when two people are cut off from the world and they're very close. A third of the time it's a parent and a child, a third of the time it's siblings, and a third of the time it's couples. And these people are all very close. Like, people that aren't close don't get this, it seems. The primary partner is also called the inducer, the dominant. The secondary is the submissive. The primary has the delusion first. They say that the dominant is usually more intelligent, but they found out that that's not really true. Primary has delusions to be more intelligent. There's no evidence of that, though. The secondary, which is the submissive, have a higher chance of having intellectual disabilities, such as a mental illness, or, you know, those type of things. An intellectual disability, something in the mind. Most primary partners have schizophrenia, delusional disorder, or a mood disorder with psychosis, like major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, a mood disorder. I do believe that, you know, the person that I was kind of relating this to, both of them, I believe, do have mental health issues. I believe that that's why the one can't work, and I know that the female, I believe that they said that she has borderline personality disorder. So that's just another thing that made me like, maybe I don't know that they're delusional, though. But it just really, like, kind of reminded me of this situation. The secondary would be the Folie à deux, or, the madness of two. They would be the one diagnosed with that, but can have secondary mental illness like schizophrenia, depression, or bipolar. The secondary is more likely to have disorders that influence thinking, like cognitive ability, like that help you rationalize and think things through. More than 90% have comorbid substance use disorder, which I'm not really sure what that means. I just like compiled some of this data through another few videos that I watched, and there's actually 4 types of folie à deux. The first one is imposed psychosis. The primary transmits delusions to someone who is sound mind. They have no mental illness. And then the second is the secondary is suffer from primary delusions. So yeah, they take on the primary's delusions. So they're basically completely normal, sound-minded individuals that get with somebody that has this psychosis, and they take on that psychosis from the primary. Secondary takes on that psychosis, and they are the madness of two individual. The second one is communicated psychosis, transmitted from partner, but secondary resists for a while, but eventually adopts original delusions on top of their own delusions that align with their own personalities. So not only do they take on the primary's delusions, but then they also build up more delusions that are more fitting to their own personality and who they are. So they like build a whole mountain out of it. They want to go big with it. Number 3 is simultaneous psychosis. The delusional element shows up at the same time in both people after traumatic events such as a death or some sort of severe trauma. So neither of them are showing psychosis or, delusional thoughts or anything like that, and then they get together and then it shows up in both of them at the same time. And then there's a 4th one, which this is the one that I found interesting. This one's called induced psychosis. Both people start off psychotic, and the primary induces new delusions to secondary. So both have break from reality, but one influences the other. So both of them are mentally ill individuals, but they both, like, once they get together, they get, like, worse, and they almost suffer, like, a break in reality together, because, like, together they feed off of each other, and they almost, like, boost each other, like, that makes total sense, and, like, you gas up the other person, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But one of them influences the other one, mostly. So, obviously, a submissive and a primary, or a dominant. So, a really high risk factor for this, and this is another thing that, like, stuck out to me, a really, really high risk factor for this is social isolation is the most significant risk factor, and a close relationship is a significant risk factor, which we all have, close relationships with people. That doesn't mean we're gonna suffer folie à deux. Hold on, my child's yelling for me. She wanted water. I'm just glad she likes to drink water. She asks for Daddy Pop all the time, and I'm like, no. When Daddy's home, she'll ask for it, though, because he'll be like, you can let her have a little bit. But I always tell her, well, water makes your belly feel good. So anyways, a close relationship is a really high risk factor, but obviously it's a high risk factor, but everybody has close relationships with people. It has to be a very, like, perfect situation for this to happen. It's a very, very rare thing that this does happen, but it is known to happen. The secondary is often a passive personality with cognitive impairments or language difficulties, along with traumas, negative life events, or other stressors, such as, well, I'm not gonna, bring up anything that, relates the situations. I'm not gonna do that. But it's unusual for a mental disorder to be associated with crimes. However, Folie deux does have a high risk. It's associated with murder, kidnapping, attempted murders, assault, battery, or burglary. And that's another thing that I've noticed. A lot of these Folie deux, they find out about it because they're committing crimes. They murder people, or they conspire to murder somebody, or they try to break into homes. Or there was another case of these three sisters. They all three suffered from it, and they suffered with this delusion that God wanted them to have this certain house. So they broke into this house and assaulted the occupants and tried to murder the police officers that tried to take them out of the house. So it's related to criminals or crimes, I mean. And that's another reason why I relate it back, like the cops being called all the time, and, just like some really crazy stuff that I've noticed recently. And then, what else did I write? Oh, okay, so it's, okay, because I watched Todd Grande's video, Dr. Todd Grande, and I'll link that down below as well. If you guys ever want to watch anything about a mental health disorder or something like that, Dr. Todd Grande got your back. That's where I got a lot of this from. Some of it came from the videos about the twins, but mostly Dr. Todd Grande's video is where all this came from. Okay, so he was talking about how prisoners will, one of them will be, have this delusion and be mentally ill, and because they're together all day in this cell, the other one will take on this delusion, and a lot of it is dealing with, like, feeling like the world's against you, and being paranoid that people are fighting against you, and thinking that people are trying to hold you down, and, like, in life, not actually hold you down. But they say that a lot of these people that suffer from Folie deux, they're living life similar to prisons, such as, like, isolation, feeling neglected, living alone, and being secluded from outside influences, so they only have each other to bounce back and forth on. They don't have anybody to break up these delusions and say, hey, what are you guys thinking? Like, what are you guys doing? And even if they do have somebody to do that, they will then suffer delusions. Well, sometimes they will get violent with anybody that threatens to break them up or take them apart, or split them up, because their mind's telling them that, you know what I mean, that now the delusion is that this person is a threat, and this person is a threat to us, because they are trying to break us up, because we know the truth and we know what's really going on, because they're delusional. And they also, they just have no social interaction. They had no access to positive social figures a lot of the time, so nobody, like a positive role model or any positivity in their life, somebody that they can go to and, have a good, positive conversation with, somebody that can, bring them back to reality. And then lastly, they feel as if they're being punished. They feel like life is punishing them. They feel like, the police are punishing them. They feel like they're being unfairly treated. They feel like, people are just trying to get them down and bullying them and that kind of stuff. And that creates this delusion that the world is against them. So, as I said, I'm not saying that this is what's going on all I'm saying is just watching that whole situation unfold just really reminded me, like, just kind of the craziness of the situation just kind of reminded me of these twins that once they got together, just shit went nuts, went south real quick. And it just seems like every time, they get back together, physically together, madness ensues. So, yeah, that's my video about Folie à deux. Let me know what you guys think. As I said, I am not an armchair psychologist. I am not diagnosing anybody. I'm not saying anything like that because that's way above my pay grade. Nobody here on YouTube gets paid enough to be diagnosing anybody. So, that's just my conspiracy, allegedly. Um, whatever. So, hopefully, if Anderson sees this, he doesn't take it too seriously because I don't mean it is any disrespect. Um, I commented on his video earlier where he was screaming at the cops and said, Anderson, what the fuck is going on now? He said SOS, so hopefully nothing too crazy is going on, because I do worry. I have been worried about him. Like, man, I'm a little, been a little worried about him every time I watch a video and I see the cops are involved, and, he's screaming at the neighbors, and he's always fighting with somebody, and it's scary, because I don't want anything bad to happen to him or Liz. I don't even know Liz, but I don't want anything bad to happen to her. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. I just hope that they're able to both get help if that's what they need, together or apart. Either way, I hope that they can just, whatever it is that they need to do to be a little healthier mentally and physically, emotionally, whatever. I hope they're able to do it. I hope they're able to stay together. I hope that they're able to work out whatever's going on that's causing all these stressors and madness. I hope everything works out well for them, because I don't want to see anything bad to happen to anybody. So, once again, not diagnosing anybody. I love y'all so much, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Oh, and I have a video coming tomorrow about the corpse husband and all the allegations being made against him, because I think it's fucking crazy what people are doing right now. I want to talk about that, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. Bye. Love y'all.